You sense that transition starting to happen. That change off on the horizon, it is drawing ever closer. It's the end of your apprentice phase, and I want to help you navigate this pivotal period in your pro wrestling career. I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It. And I've been fortunate throughout my career to work in front of the camera as a professional wrestler, ring announcer, commentator, and referee. And I've worked behind the scenes too, as a promoter, booker, agent, coach, and consultant. If you are passionate about the craft of professional wrestling and you're never done learning all about it, then I know you're in a good place. So consider subscribing to the channel right now and turn on notifications. It might be a bell that you ring, or if you're on your mobile device, it might be in your YouTube settings. Today, we're going to talk about the advent of your apprentice phase. Now, when stand-up comedians are in their apprentice phase, they do open mics or unpaid gigs to test out their material. When a band is in their apprentice phase, well, they might play in bars and clubs where they're tucked away in a corner of the building, often ignored by the patrons themselves. Now, does every stand-up comedian who does open mics end up headlining their own Comedy Central special? No. Does every band that pays their dues, gigging on the weekends, end up with a record deal? No. And that same axiom is true of professional wrestlers as well. You might spend every single weekend hustling from one booking to another while being paid little to nothing. You might have just the cash from your one t-shirt sale in your pocket and your payday of a Coke and a hot dog in your belly. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, that's exactly how the majority of pro wrestlers just starting out survive. And even though you might put in all that hustle and all of that hard work, none of it is a guarantee that one day you're going to be a big star, making millions of dollars, or appearing on television. Each and every professional wrestler out there needs a different amount of time to learn the craft, to learn how to work a live crowd, and to be able to demonstrate the consistent value they represent to the companies willing to give them stage time. Some people call this paying your dues, but I do not. I refer to this as the apprentice phase, because I happen to think you're never really done paying your dues in professional wrestling. However, with enough talent and persistence, you may find you are transitioning out of your apprentice phase, and you'll know this is starting to happen if all of a sudden more and more paying gigs start to turn up at your doorstep. Now, in the first 3 years of my pro wrestling career, I would ping pong all over Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio, and I was paid maybe 5% of the time. My real compensation during my apprentice phase was actually the stage time I was given by each wrestling promotion. My name had no value attached to it, and so it was impossible for me to demonstrate any kind of quantifiable value to ticket-buying customers, for example. And a lot of the performances that I would leave in the ring were the equivalent of car wreck matches. Without a doubt, there would always be at least one somewhat angry veteran wrestler waiting for me backstage who would rattle off a long list of everything that I had just done wrong in the ring. Because I was still learning the craft back then. I was still in my apprentice phase. But after a few years, I had learned enough that I could consistently add value to the cards where I was booked, and had even built up a little name value into my professional brand as well. That's when, little by little, more and more paying gigs started showing up at my doorstep. And if just hearing that you realize this is the phase of your professional wrestling career that is now at hand, well, I'm going to offer you up a little advice from a seasoned pro that comes colored by the lens of hindsight. But before we get to that, if you are interested in more of the educational multimedia that I make for fellow pros, including things like exclusive videos, book excerpts, essays, podcasts, and all kinds of unreleased material that you won't find anywhere else, please consider joining the community over on Patreon, a link to which is down below. So first things first, I want you to know, this is an important career milestone that you have reached. Transitioning out of your apprentice phase, that's something to be really proud of. And this is a milestone not everyone will reach, in the same way that not every stand-up comic working open mic nights ends up as a headliner, the same way that not every band playing at the pub down the street from your place ends up with a record deal. I do think it's important to acknowledge here, there are people out there who will try at professional wrestling, and yet, because they lack the raw talent or some other critical attribute, they are unable to take things to the next level. And is there something wrong with that? No, nor do I think there's anything wrong with having fun trying out new jokes at open mic night or spending your Saturday night in a tavern banging out some Nirvana covers with your friends. When you are beginning to transition out of your apprentice phase, you will notice that offers for paying gigs become more and more common, and the offers to do the unpaid gigs become less and less common. This means that you have consistently demonstrated the value that you can add to a card. It probably also means that you've built up some name value in your professional brand. It might even be clear the way in which you can impact ticket sales. Certainly, a professional wrestler who can reliably move 15 tickets to an event is demonstrating a quantifiable value greater than someone who can only move 2 tickets. Believe me, I know, it takes a long time to build up that consistent value, both in your work and in your name. And you want to be able to continue to build that value as you go forward in your career. So in order to do that, I want you to start to assign different levels of prioritization to the offers coming your way. During this critical phase of your career, you're going to assign the highest priority to your paying gigs. Now, does this mean that you're going to begin canceling other bookings en masse or no-showing your commitments? Of course not. You've got to be professional. You don't want to burn any bridges as your career begins to take off. But you do want to assign the highest possible priority to those bookings that represent an income. In this period, you're going to be getting a mixture of offers, and some of them deserve that highest priority. But I want you to assign a moderate level of priority to those bookings which may not represent money, but do align with your career goals. So, just as an example, let's say it is a career goal of yours to make inroads into the UK scene. And an offer which doesn't represent money, but does give you a chance to network with several prominent UK wrestlers, turns up at your door. That is the kind of thing you want to prioritize over any other booking offers that do not align with your career goals. So give them a moderate priority. So after you've prioritized those bookings which represent income and those bookings which align with your career goals, what's left here at the lowest priority tier? That's everything else. And are these bookings to just be ignored? No, I don't think that they are. But how many of them you want to use to fill up your calendar is entirely up to you. And I happen to think there's nothing wrong with taking one of those bookings if it represents a good learning opportunity, a chance to do some networking, or just seems like fun. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a booking for the sheer enjoyment of it, even though more than once I have had an embittered veteran tell me that a true professional would never take a bump for free. And if you happen to espouse that same philosophy, more power to you, but I certainly do not. I happen to think that people who feel that way have started to lose touch with their inner fan and are perhaps disconnected from their passion for professional wrestling. I happen to be of the opinion that taking a booking for no other reason than because of the personal enjoyment it brings you is totally okay, and I absolutely do the same. So there you have it. Those are my tips for how to navigate this key part of your pro wrestling career. And remember, these are just my opinions. There's no one single guidebook for how to do this. And the only one that would matter anyway is the guidebook you will author for yourself. But if today's advice seems helpful to you, well, drop me one of these on your way out the door. And leave a comment in the comment section down below. That really puts a twinkle in the engagement metrics eye.